In 2000, BMW built a scooter with a roof, a roll cage, a 4-point seatbelt, and crash protection engineered far beyond normal scooter standards. 6 countries said riders did not even need a helmet. It flopped so badly that BMW killed it after barely more than 2 years on sale. But the BMW C1 was not some half-baked concept that deserved to fail. The engineering was brilliant. The same is true for every bike on this list. 5 motorcycles that solved real problems, pushed real boundaries, and got absolutely punished by the market for being too far ahead. Let's get into it. Number 5, the BMW C1. Picture this. It's the late 1990s in Munich, and BMW Motorrad's engineering team is staring at a statistic that won't leave them alone. 80% of motorcycle accidents happen in cities. Their solution was radical. Build a scooter that protects the rider like a car. The BMW C1 rolled off production lines at the Bertone factory in Italy starting in the year 2000. It had an aluminum space frame that doubled as a roll cage, with 2 shoulder-height roll bars arching over the rider's head, a crumple zone wrapped around the front wheel, and instead of a helmet strap, riders buckled into an aviation-style 4-point seatbelt. Both belts had to be secured before the bike could be ridden. BMW Crash tested the C1 to demonstrate the safety cell protecting the rider in frontal impacts. Germany, Switzerland, Italy, France, Spain, and Israel all agreed that the C1 was safe enough to ride without a helmet. That had never happened before in the history of motorcycling. The problem? The C1 weighed 185 kilograms. That is heavier than most 1,000 cubic centimeter sport bikes. It was powered by a 125 cubic centimeter Rotax single, making just 15 horsepower. Top speed was 103 kilometers per hour. The base model cost around 4,000 British pounds, roughly double the price of a Honda SH125, which could do the same job if you simply wore a helmet. BMW sold 10,614 units in 2001. Then sales collapsed to just 2,000 in 2002. That was an 81% drop in a single year. Total production reached 33,714 before BMW shut it down. The C1 was too slow for bikers and too weird for car drivers. It existed in a no man's land between 2 worlds, and neither world wanted it. Today, you can pick one up for under $3,000. BMW clearly still believes in the idea. In 2025, they unveiled the Vision CE concept, basically the same thing, but electric and self-balancing. Sometimes the market just needs a few decades to catch up. Number 4, the Suzuki RE5. In 1970, Suzuki's engineers made a bet that became one of the costliest mistakes in Suzuki motorcycle history. They licensed the Wankel rotary engine from NSU, a compact vibration-free motor with almost no moving parts, and decided to put it in a motorcycle. The idea was brilliant on paper. A rotary could be lighter, smoother, and more powerful per cubic centimeter than any piston engine on the market. The Suzuki RE5 went on sale for the 1975 model year with a 497 cubic centimeter single-rotor Wankel producing 62 horsepower. It had water cooling, oil cooling, a 5-circuit carburetor, and a dual ignition system so complex that Suzuki had to print entirely new service manuals. The legendary Italian car designer Giorgetto Giugiaro penned the bodywork, including a bizarre cylindrical instrument pod with a hinged tinted cover. Cycle magazine called it the most elaborate motorcycle ever offered to the public, saying that Honda CB750s and Kawasaki 903s became erector sets in comparison. Suzuki was so worried about dealer confidence that they reportedly supplied dealers with spare rotor assemblies to reassure buyers about the unfamiliar engine. That, if you think about it for even 1 second, is maybe the worst marketing strategy ever conceived. Nothing says trust us like keeping a backup engine behind the counter, but the timing was catastrophic. The 1973 oil crisis hit right as the RE5 reached showroom floors. The bike averaged 23 to 36 miles per gallon, while comparable 4-stroke motorcycles were getting 45. At $2,475, it cost more than a Honda CB750, but the rotary 62 horsepower from a 500 cubic centimeters equivalent engine made it look weak on paper compared to the competition. Only a few thousand RE5s were built between 1975 and 1976, with the total often cited around 6,000, before Suzuki killed the project. The financial damage was severe enough that historians widely credit the RE5 as one of the biggest blows Suzuki ever absorbed. Rumors persist that Suzuki dumped unsold bikes and tooling off the Japanese coast, though nobody has ever confirmed this. The surviving RE5s now trade for $7,000 to $15,000 among collectors. The original M model with Giugiaro's cylindrical gauge pod commands the biggest premiums, from embarrassment to collectible in 50 years. Number 3. The Yamaha GTS 1000. Almost every mainstream motorcycle on the road today still uses telescopic forks to hold the front wheel. They steer, absorb bumps, and support the brakes all at the same time. The problem is, they do all three jobs poorly. Under braking, they compress, which changes your steering geometry mid-corner. They flex side to side. They fight their own friction. An American inventor named James Parker, working out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, had a better idea. His rad hub center steering system put the steering pivot inside the front wheel hub. A separate swing arm held the wheel, just like the rear of a conventional bike, with a monoshock handling bumps independently. In theory, this meant zero brake dive, constant geometry, and dramatically better handling. Parker's prototype was tested by the future 500 cubic centimeter world champion Wayne Rainey. Yamaha licensed the patent in 1990 and launched the GTS 1000 in 1993 as the first major production Japanese motorcycle with hub center steering. Cycle World named it Bike of the Year, calling it the most important collection of technical innovations in motorcycling's future. But Yamaha made one critical mistake. To fit a conventional radiator, their engineers shortened the upper control arm against Parker's explicit instructions. The consequence was that the front end got heavier at low speed instead of staying neutral. Parker had no engineering authority over the production version. Years later, he gave an interview where he said he would go to Japan for meetings, and they would wheel a prototype into a boardroom, and the guys he spoke to never had dirt under their fingernails. The GTS 1000 weighed 251 kilograms dry and cost $12,999 in 1993, dramatically more than conventional sport touring machines like Honda's CBR 1000F. Yamaha sold fewer than 500 units in the United States that year. Cycle World ran a story in February 1994 titled "Brilliant but Unsold," which pretty much says it all. Today, a nice GTS 1000 costs between $3,500 and $8,000. For a bike of the year with technology that never became mainstream among Japanese manufacturers, that might be the biggest bargain in motorcycling right now. Yamaha proved the concept worked. They just did not let the guy who invented it finish the job. Number 2. The Bimota Tesi 1D. The word Tesi is Italian for thesis, and that is not a marketing gimmick. This motorcycle literally started as a university research paper. In the early 1980s, a mechanical engineering student named Pierluigi Marconi submitted his thesis at the University of Bologna on hub center steering design, building on earlier work by British engineer Jack DeFazio and others. He then joined Bimota, the tiny Italian manufacturer whose name comes from the surnames of its three founders, Bianchi, Mori, and Tamburini. The first prototype was built around a Kawasaki GPZ 550 engine by fabricator Federico Martini in 1980. Getting from thesis to production took a full decade of painful development. Early prototypes used a hydraulic steering system that was, according to published accounts, almost impossible to ride at any speed. By 1988, Marconi had switched to a mechanical linkage and chosen the Ducati 851 V-twin as the power plant because its engine cases provided the structural rigidity the chassis needed. The production TC1D debuted at the 1990 Cologne Motorcycle Show. It used two omega-shaped aluminum plates cradling the Ducati engine, with a front swing arm holding the wheel and a linkage system connecting the handlebars through a small steering column. The Ducati 851 motor produced 102 horsepower. Weight was around 188 kilograms dry, with a remarkably short 1,410 millimeter wheelbase that made the bike feel incredibly flickable. But building this bike was absurdly labor-intensive. An Australian journalist who visited the Bimota factory in 1990 described watching a single machinist slowly turn a large aluminum slab into one of the two crescent-shaped engine cradle plates, producing an enormous pile of metal shavings several inches deep. Each bike was essentially hand-assembled. Between 1990 and 1994, Bimota built only a few hundred Tesi 1D models across all variants. The base 851 version, the SR with Oakland suspension, the Giugiaro-designed ES Special Edition of just 50 bikes, and the final EF edition, finished in anthracite gray with orange pinstripes, was limited to only 25 units. Original prices started around 22,800 euros, more than double what a standard Ducati 851 cost. Today, those same bikes trade for $30,000 to $75,000 depending on the variant. A 0-mile 904 SR was once offered for $150,000 in Switzerland. Marconi's university thesis became one of the most sought-after cult motorcycles of its era. Not bad for a homework assignment. Number 1. The Honda NR750. This is the bike that cost Honda a fortune, embarrassed them in Grand Prix racing, took over a decade to reach production, and is now one of the most valuable Japanese production motorcycles ever built. And the whole story starts with one stubborn old man. When Honda returned to 500 cubic centimeters Grand Prix racing in 1979, the paddock was dominated by screaming two-stroke engines. Every competitive bike used them. But Honda founder Soichiro Honda refused to build a two-stroke. He believed four-strokes were the future, and he was willing to bet the company's reputation to prove it. The problem was that racing rules capped engines at 4 cylinders. Two-stroke engines fire every revolution, giving them a massive power advantage. So Honda's engineering team, led by Takeo Fukui, who would later become Honda's president, came up with an insane solution. They would build a V4 with oval-shaped pistons. Each piston would have 8 valves, 2 spark plugs, and 2 connecting rods. Technically, it was a 4-cylinder engine. Functionally, it was a V8 crammed into a 4-cylinder shell. The NR500 race bike debuted at the 1979 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Rider Mick Grant crashed on the first corner when a gearbox oil leak coated his rear tire. Takazumi Katayama retired with ignition failure. In 2 full seasons of racing, the NR500 never once scored a world championship point. The paddock nickname says it all. They called it the Never Ready. Honda engineer Yoshimura later recalled those early races with one word repeated twice: miserable. But the racing program was not a total loss. The NR500 helped push technologies like carbon brakes, inverted forks, slipper clutch thinking, and rising rate rear suspension into serious racing development. All of those ideas went on to become standard in MotoGP. Honda shelved the NR500 for a 2-stroke that won the championship in 1983, but they never forgot the oval piston. In 1992, over a decade after the racing failure, Honda released the NR750. It was a road-legal motorcycle with a 747 cubic centimeters oval piston V4, producing 125 horsepower at 14,000 revolutions per minute, with gear-driven cams, titanium connecting rods, carbon fiber bodywork, fuel injection, an underseat exhaust, and a single-sided swing arm. The ignition key was shaped like an oval piston and made from nickel silver with a carbon inlay. The price was $50,000 in 1992. That's about $112,000 adjusted for inflation. Honda built only about 300 examples, with total production often cited at 322. According to industry accounts, they lost money on every single unit. One dealer in North London reportedly sold an NR750 to a buyer who showed up the next morning with £35,000 cash in 2 Tesco shopping bags. Honda held over 200 patents on the engine alone. The tank carried an engraving that read, "The result of a decade's perfection." Here is the connection that ties everything on this list together. Massimo Tamburini, the legendary designer who created the Ducati 916, publicly credited the NR750 as inspiration for the 966's underseat exhaust and single-sided swing arm. The bike that Honda lost money on influenced what many consider the most beautiful motorcycle ever designed. Today, Honda NR750s sell at auction from $69,600 to $150,000. The bike that the racing paddock once laughed at became the crown jewel of Japanese motorcycle collecting. So what do all 5 of these bikes have in common? the BMW C1, the Suzuki RE5, the Yamaha GTS 1000, the Bimota Tesi 1D, and the Honda NR750 were all genuine engineering achievements. Every one of them solved a real problem or pushed a real boundary, and every one of them got crushed at the dealership. They were not rejected because the ideas were stupid. They were rejected because the ideas arrived wrapped in too much cost, too much complexity, too much weight, or just too much future for the buyers of the day. And the proof is in the price tags. The bikes nobody wanted are now the bikes everybody wants. If you enjoyed this, subscribe. We cover the most fascinating motorcycle stories every week. Check out this video next because we have another one you are going to love.